In today's video, I want to talk about what Integromat does better than Zapier. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Connor, and on this channel I help people who cannot code build online businesses with no-code tools. Now, if you've been on this channel before, you'll know that I use Zapier to set up most of the workflows for my no-code projects, but obviously there are a whole bunch of other automation tools out there that you could use besides Zapier. One of those tools is Integromat, and I've been getting quite a few questions from people over the last few weeks asking me to explain where Integromat does better than Zapier. So I actually use both tools to run workflows for the Unicorn Factory, and the main reason why I use both tools is because overall Zapier is a bit more user friendly when you're just getting started. However, you tend to move through the different payment tiers a lot faster just because of how the pricing structure inside of Zapier works. So as soon as you start having workflows that are very task heavy, what you ideally want to do is move them over to another automation tool that is quite a bit cheaper, and that is the main reason why a lot of people start setting up workflows inside of Integromat after having used Zapier. That was pretty much my starting point for Integromat, but having used Integromat now for the last 6 to 7 months, I've actually discovered that there are quite a few use cases for workflows where using Integromat makes a lot more sense than Zapier. So in today's video, I want to show you one of the workflows that I've got set up for the Unicorn Factory inside of Integromat that in my opinion really highlights the key strengths that Integromat has over other automation tools to hopefully give you an idea of what kind of workflows you might want to set up inside of Integromat. Now, if you are new to this channel and you want to learn more about no-code and set up your own online business as a non-developer, then subscribe to the channel. Also, if you are interested in more content like this where I break down certain tools, go over the pros and cons of using them, then please like this video and also let me know in the comments down below what specific tools you would like me to review or share my opinion on. But with all of that out of the way, let's dive into Integromat so I can show you that workflow. So the workflow that I've got set up inside of Integromat that for me really highlights why Integromat actually has a lot of really great things to offer is the workflow that sends email notifications to freelancers as soon as a new job post has been published on the Unicorn Factory. So I'm not going to dive into too much detail about the individual steps, but just at a very high level, the way that it works is a webhook triggers when the job has been posted. What happens then is it looks up what specific skills were requested in that job posting and then looks up inside of the freelancer table which freelancers have that particular skill attached to it. And then in the middle step here, it iterates through every single one of those freelancers with that skill and then sends out an email to them based on them either being a paying member or on a trial. Now, at a very high level, both of these things are actually possible inside of Integromat and inside of Zapier. However, I find that as soon as you are working with things like the iterator step or routers, it is actually visually easier to set up workflows inside of Integromat than it is inside of Zapier. So Zapier as an automation tool is definitely a lot more intuitive when you are setting up linear workflows, which means that you have one trigger and then a bunch of actions that follow behind it. But as soon as you set up something with conditional formatting, which essentially the router step is inside of Integromat, then it quickly turns into something where you have to set up workflows in different pages. So for example, if I want to set up a workflow for just active freelancers, I have to set up a new workflow in there and create all the individual steps. And then I actually have to do the same thing again for another role. And I've just found that working with something like the router for multi-steps or conditional logic makes a lot more sense inside of Integromat because the canvas kind of allows you to do that at a way bigger scale. Now, obviously, I've only got two conditions here. One is if a freelancer is on a trial, and the other is when a freelancer is on a paid membership. But I've seen workflows where you might have 5 or 6 or 7 conditions, and that is where setting this up inside of Zapier might be a complete pain. Another thing where I think Integromat really does incredibly well is they actually have a whole bunch of neat little tools that you can actually implement into your workflows that are otherwise not very easy to do inside of Zapier. One of those is the iterator step. Now, what the iterator step does is it allows you to look up arrays inside of a record. So in my case, it looks up an array of freelancers that have a certain skill attached to their profile that matches up with services that were requested through the job listing. Now, what happens as soon as it has that array of freelancers is it actually iterates through every single one of them and runs a unique workflow for every record in that array. That is something that is phenomenal and something that I don't think was possible for a long time inside of Zapier. I did, however, find out that they now do have a workflow that allows you to loop through an array of items. I do, however, again think that if you are doing something that is as advanced as looping through an array of records, you want to make sure that the workflow is nice and visual so that you can see how the data flows. So I also wanted to quickly just tell you how I used to solve this particular workflow. Back in the day when I wasn't using Integromat, what I would do is I would create a send an email through Gmail in Zapier step, and I would just BCC in all of the different freelancers that would appear in the lookup field. That in itself, however, would create quite a few issues. For example, you have a certain limit of people that you can BCC into an email, which means that as my platform started to grow, emails would just not send because I'll be exceeding that limit. Another issue is that you'll never deliver as many emails as you would when you are using a transactional tool like MailerSend, but MailerSend doesn't have a BCC field in their Zapier app, which meant that I couldn't switch over to that early on. So discovering this particular workflow in Integromat has been a real lifesaver and has really allowed me to upgrade my workflows. So how have my feelings about Integromat changed over this last year? Now, I still believe that if you are just getting into setting up workflows, Zapier is the better choice just because it is quite a bit more user-friendly. Integromat still has a few little UX issues that I feel can be really confusing to people who are just getting started. However, if you are already familiar with automation tools and you're starting to wanting to set up more advanced workflows, then Integromat might be a good fit for you. One thing that has really worked for me is the fact that I've actually been using Airtable automations a lot more, and I've been able to combine the functionality and features of Integromat with the webhooks that I can trigger from inside of Airtable automations. Now, I've made a bunch of videos about this, so you should definitely check out how I use those combos of tools, but it has really allowed me to take more advantage of some of the key things that Integromat offers that Zapier has otherwise struggled with in the past. Now, before I wrap things up, I do want to clarify that you can iterate through an array of items inside of Zapier. They actually recently launched a new feature that allows you to do that, and paths is essentially the same thing as a router. For me, it's mostly a personal preference of being able to set up these workflows visually, especially when you are working with the router and multiple steps. However, if you're someone that just prefers the more linear layout, then Zapier might just be a better fit for you. And then the very last thing that I want to say is that I am not really an Integromat power user. I definitely use Zapier a lot more than Integromat, so I might be overlooking a few things. So if you are someone that uses Integromat a lot and you have thoughts on why Integromat does things better than Zapier, then let me know in the comments down below. I can definitely see myself making an updated version of this video in the future, so any tips and tricks for me to look out for would be very much appreciated. Other than that, I just wanted to thank you for sticking around for the entire video. If you enjoyed it, if you got value out of it, then please smash the like button. It helps the channel out a lot. Other than that, thank you so much, and I'll see you back here for the next one.